welcome to an episode. This is my first episode that's video of the Tapestry podcast. Okay, awesome. And Erika, you are my first guest.
Oh, wow. No pressure.
So it's a lot of pressure on you. But I need to introduce you because we have been having so much fun behind the scenes. So I want to continue that. But I need to let everybody know the greatness that I am about to talk to. Okay. So y'all, let me introduce the amazing Erika Brown. Erika is an archaeologist. She's an educator, content creator. She says she's a nerd. Mom, wife, and believer are just a few of the many words used to describe Erika R. Brown. This one small town preacher's daughter and Army veteran is the representation the scientific community didn't know it needed. Erika loves archaeology, especially that of the Bible, and her goal is to bring it to the culture. As an ongoing scholar, currently seeking her PhD in Archaeology of Near East at Lipscomb University in Nashville, Erika teaches college-level courses, small groups, churches, and seminars, and having founded JSYK Production, Erika provides educational videos via the YouTube series, Just So You Know, reaching 300 to 1,000 viewers at a time. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having
me. And so when we first met,
yes,
we were at Patrick LeBlanc's event. Shout out to Patrick, who has this nonprofit that does amazing work around mental health.
Yeah.
And we started talking. Mm-hmm. And when you told me what you do, I was intrigued by you are like the modern day Indiana Jones.
Oh, don't say Indiana Jones.
I know, but I had to go there. So talk to me about how did you get into this space? What's been the journey that got you to say, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it's real simple. I'm a Christian, as most people know, but I got into reading my Bible, and I've always been an avid reader. So when I got into read my Bible, I thought I could read it like books. So I'm reading it. So I want all the details to make sense because I'm trying to paint a picture. But the more I read, I found that there would be these details in the stories that seemed random. And I was like, why? Who cares? When Rachel steals her father's gods and tucks them under her lap, or Jesus says things about a Moses seed. I mean, it would just be like, I don't understand what this means. So I ended up going to Almighty Google and Googling details like that and found out it was about understanding the ancient culture. And I was like, oh, well, I want to learn about the ancient culture so I can understand this book that I'm reading, right? Found out it's called Archaeology. Had never even heard of it. Never do the word. Found out people go to school for this. I hadn't been to school yet. And then I found out that people specialize in ancient Near Eastern archaeology, which is biblical archaeology. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And I'll never forget there was a class that talked about the social, cultural customs of ancient Palestine. And I was like, oh, I want to take this class. I had just found the class, clicked on the thing, found out it was a part of a master's program at Southwestern Theological Seminary. They had an archaeology and biblical studies program. I didn't have my degree yet. I legit went and got my undergrad. And I found a feeder school for them, found their feeder school so that I could go into the program because I want to take classes like that. But I ended up getting my undergrad in ancient studies. And I was like, there's more. There's more. And it just became this epic, growing love story of ancient history and ancient culture. And I found that so many people didn't know. And so then I was real annoying to my husband. I love him so much, but he was so supportive. I was like, and did you know this? And they did this because of this, and they found this, and they found this. So it just blossomed from a simple reading to finding out there's a whole world of people doing research and study, and they're still actively researching. They're still actively excavating. They're still actively doing all these things. And I was like, I've got to be a part of this.
How has it affirmed your faith?
For me, the Bible has been unnecessarily accurate. What I mean is...
what do you mean by that?
If you're reading Exodus and they're talking about the Pharaoh, they won't say the Pharaoh's name, Because during that period of time, when you did any type of writing or things, you didn't say Pharaoh's name. But when we get to later on in the monarchy, in like First Kings, Second Kings, they'll say Pharaoh, blah blah blah, Pharaoh, blah blah blah, because that become during that time. That's how you reference the Pharaoh in writing. So it'd be little things like who cares about that type of accuracy or the mileage or the distance or the typography, just different things that. Why does it matter? You don't have to be accurate about those things. You don't even have to put that detail in the narrative, but it's there, So it's really anchored me in that sense. And I always tell people that archaeology is not about proving the Bible. It's not about proving your faith. Proof says that gives you permission to believe something. No, I believe first. This comes along and just supports what I already know to be true. Like, I know my mama's my mama's my mama. But when I saw my birth certificate, I was like, oh, this is cool. This woman is my mama, which I already knew. So I tell people that's how it works for me. And so the more we find out, the more we learn, the more I can see how the Bible's fitting in this world and how it's written fits into this world of what we see coming up as archaeologists.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned or encountered in this work?
The most surprising thing has been... I think what's been so surprising to me is just how much of it there is. I think sometimes we think of it as one singular bubble, but it's a lot like in medicine. There are surgeons, there are primary care physicians, of course, and there are hematologists. Archaeologists is the same. So we have Egyptologists, we have Assyriologists, we have people that are specializing in so many things, and then how all of that comes together. Because we'll take what they're finding here in Asia Minor, and we can see how that's influencing some of the things happening in ancient Israel during different time periods. So I think what I should say is what has surprised me is how interconnected the ancient Near Eastern world was. I mean, it was really connected. It wasn't a bubble where these people groups and these cultures weren't colliding and crossing and affecting each other. They really were, and you can see that coming out of the dirt sometimes. Like, it's super dope, so...
One of the things that was so interesting in me was I remember I was doing some studying for an article and how they had just found the city that David had ran to when he was running away from Saul. And I think for me in studying it starts with a Z. What is it?
I cannot think.
I can't think of what it is. It'll come to me off the top of my head either.
I'm sorry.
But because it's a lot of cities, let's just be honest. But I think the thing that was so fascinating to me was the ability to connect biblical history to real experiences. And I think so often we see it as a book that is figurative
or mythological.
But it really is this historical account of real people's experiences.
Right.
So for you, what's been one of the most challenging things too that you've seen? Because for me in reading that, it was challenging to go, wow, this actually is a historical account more than it is this narrative of morality and how we are to live. And I think it's being able to reconcile the two. What's been a challenge for you in this?
One of the challenges, sometimes you do come across hard data. I think people think that when we're excavating the whole entire space. Sometimes we're excavating a corner of a corner of a corner. You can only find so much in a corner of a corner of a corner. So if we get to a space that we've only excavated this small area and what we have found, we haven't found anything that lines up with the text, it's like, oh, there's the temptation, oh, the text is not right. Oh, the text got it wrong. And sometimes that's challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. But I also know that we haven't excavated everything. There are things that have come up over time. And like there was the idea that David was a fictitious character that was established just to give Jewish people a heritage. Well, then when we find it's not the Misha Stilla. I'm so sorry, I went blank. Anyway, it has his name. It has that he defeated it's an enemy. He says that he has defeated the son from the house of David. Well, the enemy is not going to be just giving you a name that was made up, and so it's things like that. Yeah, but we found that later. So sometimes are we interpreting the data right? And it's all about interpretation of the data. Are we interpreting the data right? Has more data not become available? I mean, it can be hard because people will be like, oh, well, there's no data to support this. And to some extent, sometimes they're right. Yes, no, there is no data to support this. But unfortunately, and then my only argument is, well, there's no data to not support it as well. But that's hard because people want, people want hard data. They want hard information, and not being able to give them that, not being able to give that to myself, sometimes that's hard.
Yeah, but I sometimes struggle when people also want hard data, because it's like I remember hearing someone say, we know the flu exists, but we can't see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes we want things to be real that we know we experience, but there's no actual proof that we can see it, but it's there.
But everybody's okay with that for everything except the Bible. So
isn't that interesting, though?
It's the dance. And I give room for that. I get it. Things are hard for people. And I don't even get upset about it. I'm like, I wish I could give you more, but that's it. And if you're mad, and I can't tell you that. I know what I believe. I know where I stand, whether the data's available or not. And I think that's good to be honest with people in that way, too, you know?
Yeah. Well, it gives people room, I think, to be able to grow. Mm-hmm. Because I think what the entire book allows us to see, if we're honest, is growth.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also room for interpretation. So I think my question for you is because you're talking about a book that has a lot of different, languages and interpretations.
Yeah.
Does that make it difficult in your work to really be able to come up with that data? Because you're talking about Aramaic, Greek, Hebrew, and there is also the interpretation of bias that comes in because of our own prejudices.
Oh, yeah, people be people.
Yeah, they're people. And so how does that impact what data looks like? And I'm going to throw you a curveball even in that. Council of Nicaea and those groups in terms of how things may have been interpreted. And for those of you in the audience who are going, what are you talking about? Google, check it out.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's a major event,
So what are your thoughts on that and how that may influence what data says and what we believe?
There's two parts to that answer. Okay. First, I think sometimes we think of copying the text like we did in grade school, where we were given a sheet and they say copy it. We understand that first scribes were thoroughly trained before they could even copy the text. And we found evidence of that as well. We found practice tablets. We found, practice things like that. So you couldn't just hop in and just copy a text. So they had to be thoroughly trained before they could even copy something to a scroll. So it was like the work that surgeons put in. The practice and the training, it's almost to that level. So there's a precision that's required. There's a precision that's required. So copying the text wasn't something frivolous that you do like you do in the 5th grade. If you're not doing it right, you're not going to, get the job. So that's one of the amazing things with the Dead Sea Scrolls. 25% is about 1,000 copies of scrolls, bits of scrolls. 25% of those are from the biblical text, the Hebrew text. With every one, a book accounted for except Esther. And they matched those with, before the Dead Sea Scrolls, the earliest text we had, which is what our Old Testament is based off, is the Masoretic text, which is 1000 AD. The Dead Sea Scrolls are about 200 BC to 200 AD. So it's like almost 1,000-year difference. And the fact that they compared those, the precision and the closeness, it's remarkable. It's just a testament to scribal training. So it's not, I know everybody's like, it's like telephone, and by the time it gets passed on. Yeah. But if we can see this type of accuracy on papyrus or they wrote on animal skin, that type of precision on those type of materials between 1,000 years, that's a huge testament. Like, that's huge. So that's not something that you can dismiss. But then on the flip side, archaeologists do not take the Bible. We do not take our Bible and be like, you know what, we're about to go out and find Solomon's temple. That's what we're doing, guys. And that's why I'm like, please stop thinking we Indiana Jones. No, we literally, it'll be a question of how were regular people processing their food in this space? That'll be our question. We are literally asking a question about daily life. So it's never like, you know what, we're going to go prove 1 Kings today, guys, and we're going to do it epically. So it's never even dependent on the Bible as well, So I have to always tell people that it's not even a part of the process. It's a part of when we look at the data later on and see how that affects the data. But it's never the initial. We are not We're not initially going out digging to say, we're going to prove that Jesus's house was right here, y'all. We're going to do it. No, it's never, never, never real archaeologists. Let me preface that. There are crazies, but real ones are never doing that. They're like, we have a question. We want to understand that question. And we get data that way. And we're going down layer by layer by layer. So I say that. But then when we look at the Nicene Council, the babies love to talk about that council. Mm-hmm. And they like to say that it influenced our beliefs and it set up the rules of the church. But that's interesting because there are finds that rejects that invalidates that statement. Because like the Megiddo Church, I have this on my channel. There's an inscription. The Megiddo Church is dated prior to the Nicene Council. It's dated prior to Constantine in the mid 200s, late 200s AD. And on there's an inscription where these people dedicated their church space, their Christian space, to Christ Jesus, our God, Christ Jesus. Which means that before the Nicene Council, before Constantine, Christ's deity was a thing. As a matter of fact, this was a Gentile space. It wasn't even a formerly Jewish. It was a Roman soldier who gave his house to let these Christians come in, which they have another inscription saying that, thank you to our brother Sergeant such and such for letting us have this space. So it's things like that, but a lot of times people don't know that we have things like that speak to, or we have physical data that talks about people who did believe in the deity of Christ prior to the Nicene Council. So it's always helpful. I know people like to say that, so I usually present that information to them, and then I let them decide from there. If we have this, a Mosaic inscription, then that means that there are people who believe this. This isn't something that was interjected just because of Constantine and the Nicene Council, so I hope that answers the question.
No, but that's good and why I didn't want to explain it, because I don't want to jade people. I think it's very important for you to study to show yourself approved that you need to be able to go and research and determine what it is that you believe, because so often people just grab on the information. Yeah. And instead of being able to weigh it with various opinions, they end up making life decisions that aren't always based in accuracy. Oh, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your life. You're a mom.
I am a mother of two.
So how do you balance being a professor? You do this YouTube show, and then you got little ones. You're not a mom of big people.
I am a mom of big people.
You've got little bitty people, too.
I don't have little bitty people.
You've got big people?
I have a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old.
Oh, you've got big people. So talk about, but you had little ones
when I started, they were small,
So how did you balance doing all of that?
Oh, honey.
And even now, how do you do that?
There is no balance. One girl asked me that in college, because I think I'm one of the only married women in the program. And she asked me that because they were thinking about having children. She was like, Erika, you just seem to have it all so balanced. How are you doing this? I was like, girl, I just got through crying in my car. I am not balancing this. Because when I'm a good student, I'm a horrible mom and wife. And when I'm a great mom and wife, I'm a horrible student. I just, my daddy has always told me, you do the best you can with what you can. And it's been day by day. And when I see that I'm slacking in one, I gotta kind of pull back and go to the other. And it was harder when the boys were smaller. Because when I first started my journey, they were elementary age people. So it was tough. My husband's a remarkable man. He saw what I wanted to do, and he was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And so
that's a gift.
He's amazing. I love him. We'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So
congratulations.
So he's been, and then I'm a believer, so I'm sorry I got to go to church. He's a Jesus man, like he holds me down, so it's all I have.
But that's the glue.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give younger Erika, knowing what you know now?
You don't have to prove yourself. Just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride. I think I got, in the beginning, which I didn't know, I went to learn, but then I found I was kind of alone in my space. As a Black woman, as a wife, a mother. So I was walking a journey alone, and I don't know what Kool-Aid I drunk, and the thought said that you got to prove yourself to all these people. And in hindsight, I'm like, Erika, no friend. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it, because I learned so much. I got to learn so much information. I'm still learning so much, and I love learning. So it's like, enjoy that. Enjoy this pleasure that you get from this experience. Just enjoy the learning. Enjoy the ride.
But it's something that as women, I was having a conversation earlier about this ideal of imposter syndrome.
Oh, baby.
And read this article that was in Harvard Business Review that talks about there really is an imposter syndrome. There are environments that are set up that make us feel like we're imposters.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I think it's that, but I think we oftentimes feel like we don't belong and we have to prove ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
How have you been able, especially in an environment that you're in where you don't see a lot of women, one, and you don't see a lot of women of color?
Yeah.
How have you been able to navigate that?
Well, actually, you do see a lot of women.
Really?
There's a lot of women. It's amazing. That I was shocked about. It's a lot of women. I think in the earlier part of archaeology is a very, very, very young science. I don't think people understand. It started in the late 1800s. Like, we are very new. And so it's mostly male dominated. But in the 70s, 80s, it must have turned because it's so many women. But
wow, I did not know that.
Oh, honey, I didn't either. I got there, so I've been on a few excavations, which is nice because I was nervous. Like, oh, my Lord, I'm going to be the only woman. But no, it's tons of women. But you're right, it's not a lot of Black women. And navigating that is different because I made a vow a long time ago to show up as authentically myself as possible. And sometimes spaces aren't made for me to show up as authentically. And it's not like being aggressive, mostly micro, but I don't know. And as an older student, I've been alive for many moons. There's a mindset too. Like, you know what? I paid my tuition, baby. They're going to give me all the education that I paid for in this tuition. I don't care who likes me, who don't. I belong in this library. That's fine. Whatever. Check my thing. Now I need this book, this book, this book, this book. This book. Thank you. Have a good day.
Getting older does. Yeah. Because I joke and say I'm not a spring chicken. I'm an early fall yard bird. Yeah. And there's a whole different way of thinking as you get older. That's true.
And I would tell the younger students, like, I need to ask my professor. I'm like, baby, you paid this tuition.
Is that just like everybody else? That money is green.
Ask these questions.
Yes.
Go ask them questions.
Yes.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yes.
So it did help that I was non-trad, as my friend said. So that helps. I'm like, I don't have time to care because I am somebody's wife and mom.
Yeah.
So there are some things I can't even focus on. I don't have time. I got to finish this because I got to go cook dinner and put people to bed and do homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps to be alive many moons.
Yeah, but also because you had all these other responsibilities too, that purpose was different.
Yeah. And I was in this space to learn, and the more I learned, the more I realized that I needed to be sharing this with my community.
Yeah,
because I had no idea. No, not even the smallest idea that this was a thing, that this was an option. And I consider myself to be an informed person. So if I had no idea, can you imagine what people don't know? I legit worked with a professor, PhD, Black professor in New York, loved him. He's a text guy. And he said, I never knew that archaeology was a thing that we can incorporate to our studies. I said, sir, what you talking? Yes.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. People don't know. And even then I say that I don't even want to be the only person. Let's motivate young minds. Let's get more people into it so we can have better dialogue. We can have all the things. So,
but it's hard to be what you don't see. And that's why it's so important for people to see you. Yeah. That's why for me, when I met you, I was like, I've got to figure out ways to amplify and elevate what you're doing because I don't think people get to see folks that are doing work like you, that are Black, that are female, and then just your personality and ambiance. Because typically when folks are academics, we're both in that space where people are academics and they're not personable.
No.
It is exhausting. And that there's an air about them where they're not approachable and they're not human. And so to meet someone who's a kindred spirit, who loves people, and you love God, and you love community. Yeah. For me, it was so important to be able to create a space where folks could see you and I could talk to you as well. Yeah. Because I don't think people are able to even see that.
No, because I am huge on who cares how smart I am if you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Right.
Who cares? Who cares how brilliant I think I am if I can't teach you, if you can't take something away and you've learned something? I don't care. So I intentionally, my videos on my YouTube channel, I intentionally make it to where it's like we having a conversation. I'm just talking to you like I'm telling you this information like I'm having a conversation. And if you want more, I have tons of people that reach out to me. Oh, if you want the data and the numbers, we can do data and numbers. I don't mind. But I don't want that. And that was one of the things when I first started. Remember, I told you I had never heard of it. So I started from scratch. So there's terms and language and lingo, and they're just talking to you like you know. And if you don't know, you're beneath us because you don't know. And it's like, this is unnecessary. Why?
But academia has been designed to exclude because of the language. And that's problematic because I feel the same way you do, that it has to be and we have to be a bridge so that it's accessible for people and it's not so high level that folks don't understand, because it's not that hard and it shouldn't be that complicated where people don't have access to information that can change their lives. And that's where it's problematic. And I'm grateful for you because you are doing that and serving as a bridge so that people can have access to information that can empower them, that can educate them, and it changes their trajectory because it's spiritual. And that's at the core of people's identity. And that's so important.
Oh, it's so important. You've said all the words. Yes, it's so important. And you know what? It's crazy because I have my channel, of course, but there are other channels. There are tons of if you go online, there's so many biblical archaeology videos, but it's all so stiff, like you were saying, and dull. And they always do the real ominous music and the stories. Like, it's fun. Like, learning this stuff is fun. Why we can't slap some 808s and some beats on the back of it? Yes, we found this in the dirt. Boom. Like, like, not at all. So, and I hated it. And I know how hard it was for me. But I wanted it. So can you imagine if there's a young person out there, they're kind of curious, but not really, because TikTok's got a lot of information, I want to at least give them a chance. Pause. Just listen. Just pause for a few minutes. You might like what's happening. And that's happened to me. I had an old woman say to me, I almost didn't come to your lecture because it sounded boring. But I actually liked it. And I was like, I know the word can sound boring, so it created a chance. And who knows what she'll share. She may tell her grandkids. She may, there are things. So I always try and keep that in mind of connecting with the community and sharing with the community.
So what advice would you give somebody who wants to go into this space? What would you tell them?
And they want to go into biblical archaeology. Be prepared for the ride. I mean, it's overwhelming and exciting because there's so much. And if you want to go into this, that means you're like, okay, I want to know all the things. So you're reading all the things. And some days you're going to be, I didn't even know you could have a learning hangover because you have learned so much. Like, oh my Lord, this is amazing. So I was like, be prepared for that. And it's exciting. Enjoy it and have fun. Yeah.
So how can people reach you? How can they find you?
So I have a YouTube channel called Just So You Know by ER Brown, because if you just do Just So You Know, I think Justin Bieber or somebody comes up. So I had to put Just So You Know by ER Brown. I'm also on Instagram, JSYK by ER Brown. And yeah, you can reach me on those two platforms.
I hope folks reach out to you because what you're doing is life-changing.
Oh, thank you.
Because people don't know.
Yeah.
And I think if they are able to see and understand and be able to make the connection to what they hear every Sunday and what they're reading to what you have been able to find in the discoveries, I think it can really change people's lives and as a career path, because people don't often see that as even an option.
No.
And so I just want people to see you and know you. And I'm grateful that you said yes to be here today.
I'm so glad you asked me. I love it.
So Erika, thank you for being here on the show. I love her, y'all. She is so amazing. So please reach out to Erika R. Brown, the mom, the nerd, the academic. When's the PhD done?
Oh, honey, no, it's a long way. I haven't even hit dissertation phase yet, so I'm still doing coursework.
You're almost there.
I know. 3 classes away before dissertation phase. So.
Oh, you're so close. You're so close.
Yeah, so just taking my time.
Well, I'm here to help you in any way that I can.
Oh, I love it. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Tapestry podcast. And Erika, thanks for being my first guest as we do it on video. And I want to say before we close this, I could not have done this without ISP Studios. They have been amazing in allowing me to have this opportunity to be able to share amazing guests like you. So shout out to Margie and her team for making this happen. So thanks.